What was the most stupid thing you've been told by a medical professional? There's nothing wrong with you. You just want attention. This was as a kid. While cluster headaches were tearing my brain to shreds and I was in absolute screaming agony. Same doctor killed a kid a few years later by dismissing his asthma attack as a panic attack, and telling his mum to take him home and it would pass, without even touching him to examine him. And yet she never got struck off. I have bipolar disorder and some of the meds for that condition contribute to major and alarming weight gain. While bawling my eyes out in my doctor's office after gaining over 80 pounds in 9 months, he told me that I could be stable or slim, but not both. And sadly I believed him. And X200B. It would be another year before he retired and a new doctor took over. I went to him for a routine appointment and we discussed my weight. He suggested we try another med, which I didn't even think was an option. Within 3 months everything changed for the better. I'm now very stable, 7 years of wellness and counting, and I've been able to lose all of the weight. And X200B. If you feel something isn't right, get a second opinion. I really wish I had done that for myself. But I had blind faith in my doctor and it didn't occur to me that there were any other options. You're absolutely fine. Doctor who examined me after an accident turns out I had 3 cracked ribs. Don't remember what I was told, but do remember him looking up my symptoms on WebMD as I was describing them. I had a series of pulmonary embolisms and DVTs as a teen and one time I went in with severe chest pain and difficulty breathing. The doctor told me he personally checked the scans and there were no clots. This was before cell phones but not before at-home voicemails. So when I got home with my mom, we found a message. So hey, Dr. Y here. We had the radiologist check the scan and it turns out you have pulmonary embolisms after all. We'll send a pain med prescription to your pharmacy. Just stay in bed. Use the blood thinner injections we're sending. And get back to us in a week. The dumbest thing they didn't tell me more like, I lost a ton of weight. And I went through both my cardiologist and family doc worried about the hard lumpiness I found on my abdomen. Scheduled $3,000 MRI to tell me they found nothing wrong. Only for myself having to Google and finding out about visceral fat, which they never even gave a clue to. We can't do much about tension headaches. Just take painkillers forever. Looks at packet. Not to be consumed for more than 3 days in a row. That my abscessed diverticulitis was just constipation and a laxative would fix it. I once snatched away a patient's cigarette whilst he was on high-flow oxygen. He told me he'd die without the cigarette and he'd been smoking on oxygen for years. How the man still had a face is beyond me. I've also been told by a patient that I shouldn't wash my hands because there's no such thing as germs. School counselor told me I wasn't anxious. Wonder what did he'd think about my literal anxiety disorder. I had a back injury that prevented me from exercising. Dr. Fat shamed me and said I needed to exercise. The tips for better sleep hygiene list useless horseshit. The only exception being the obvious advice not to have caffeine before you want to sleep. To swallow lidocaine for a stomachache. Was given a prescription for it even. That my chest X-ray was clear when I had a persistent cough. It was reread and I had pneumonia. Your anxiety is bringing on the bad period cramps. I didn't have anxiety at the time and after seeing a female gyno. I had a laparoscopy and had a bunch of endometriosis and fibroids. Not sure which medical school that idiot went to that taught him anxiety causes period cramps woozy face. that my vertigo was due to allergies. For a man who doesn't like noise. You talk a lot. I have autism and I had mentioned that I don't like noise that's loud or unpleasant for my ears. The person who said this was a cognitive behavior therapist. It's fine. You are a kid. You'll grow into it. Ended up not growing into it. And had a knee injury for 11 years that stunted growth in the left half of my body to the point where each limb is about 3 inches smaller than the right. Thankfully fixed after 3 years of physio at least. When raising serious questions about a course of treatment, I went to Yale. Quote, great. Fantastic. The Ivy League taught you sweet fuck all about not lying to your patients. Me. Doctor. I'm depressed. Describes symptoms. Doctor. Yeah, spending enough time in the Word. Son. That my hand was fine and I can go home. In fairness, he was absolutely correct. The hand in the X-rays was fine. Unfortunately, it just wasn't mine. I had this session with my psychiatrist to have my meds for depression and anxiety prescribed. For the 100th time. When she asked me how I was feeling, I told her the pills kept me functional but made me unbearably numb. When I was about to leave, I politely smiled at her. I do that a lot. So she stopped me and said, I would like to call your attention to the fact that you're smiling. Which means you can't be feeling numb. And went back to her papers.